Hello everybody and welcome back to American Textbook Reading. I'm your host Brian Stuart. Now we're continuing on the subject of physical science and we're talking a lot about matter. I hope you're learning a lot, especially it's kind of interesting taking a look at matter and the various things we can discover about matter. Well, in this chapter, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about matter and its changes. How does matter change? So in this lesson, you will discover matter can change in many different ways, right? We have different methods for changing matter. So we're going to take a look at these different ways and we're going to look at the vocabulary to describe how matter can change. You ready? Let's begin. The first way that we can change matter is we can mix it together. Mix it up, right? As we can see, oh, this looks delicious. Are you hungry? I'm getting hungry. This looks like cookie dough, right? We can take a little bit of that and eat it, right? Very delicious, okay? So this looks like cookie dough here. We're going to mix it together, right? So we're mixing different matter or different things, and we're going to make something different out of it. So when we change matter, one way to change it is to mix it. Now, mix means to combine two or more things. Now, if this is cookie dough, it's not just two things. There's probably several or many different things in it. In fact, we're going to watch a video of people who are making cookie dough. Looks like they're making cookie dough. It could be a cake, but it looks like they're baking something very similar. And we're going to see how they mix things together. So, in this case, we have a bowl, right? You need to have a bowl to contain the matter that you're going to mix together. And this part here looks like that's the mixture that's going to turn around and mix the ingredients. So, by the way, they're going to put ingredients into this bowl. And the ingredients are the matter that is going to be mixed together. So what are the ingredients? Let's take a look. First of all, we see some flour that is coming into the bowl. Flour is a type of matter, right? So that is one ingredient. Then we see some butter. So some butter's there. And then we see some chocolate powder, probably some sugar, brown sugar. Oh, this is syrup. Very sweet. That's going to make it taste good, right? Not too much syrup. Then we have an egg. You saw an egg go by really quick. An egg's good. Whoa, whoa. Now it's all being mixed up. Whoa. Okay, that mixture is turning it around and mixing everything up. Okay? Whew. Wow, excuse me. Okay, so it all got mixed up, right? Usually mixing up, especially with an electric blender, it's very fast, right? Lots of energy, right? You can also mix it by hand. That takes a lot more energy on your part. Okay, so that's to mix many ingredients together. You change the matter, right? You change the flour, the butter, the syrup, the sugar. You change that all and you make a cookie or a cake out of it, okay? So after we mix things together, we can also use another word to describe what the result is. The result is a mixture. So if you think about it, a cookie is a mixture of all those ingredients we just saw. So is a cake. Over here we have many different candies, and these candies are a mixture of different colors and different types of sugar probably to make one candy. So a mixture is two or more kinds of matter put together. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can mix things. We're going to look at one way in the video, but we're going to mix two or more kinds of things together. We're going to make a mixture. So we mix things together. The result is a mixture. Let's take a look. Here we have a candy dish. What's going to go inside? Okay, let's take a look. Oh, here comes the candy. Wow. Okay, whoa. Try to catch those pieces of candy, take them and eat them, right? So we have a lot of different types of candy. Well, there's the same type of candy, but what happened was they're different colors, right? We're taking different colors of candy, we're mixing them together. What we have is a mixture of different colors of candy, right? It looks like jelly beans, okay? So this is a mixture of candy, different colors. We have white, we have purple, we have orange, we have yellow, we have green. It's a mixture of different colors. It's all the same type of candy, but it's a mixture of colors. It's more attractive this way, and I'm going to steal a piece, right, and eat it, right? It's a mixture of different types of candy. Okay, different colors of candy. Now, it's interesting because, you know, with the candy that we just saw, right, we have a mixture of candy, but it's also easy, you know, with the different colors, we could separate those colors out. Now if you separate something, and here we have a picture of nuts. These are different types of nuts and maybe some grains here. These are different types of nuts that are separated. They're not mixed up. They're all separate. So you have one type of nut here, you have another type, this looks like a peanut right here, you have peanuts here, and another type of a nut here, beans looks like, and this looks like dates or persimmon here. These are separate, right? They're not mixed up together. They're separate. They're kept by themselves. So separate means to keep things apart from each other. Separate is a verb to keep things apart from each other. Don't mix them. Okay, it's the opposite of mixing. Separate is the opposite of mixing. Now, another way that you can mix things together, right? One way to mix things together is to dissolve the things. Dissolve, that's an interesting word. Dissolve, to dissolve something. That means to put something into a liquid and make it seem to disappear. So if you put something into a liquid, it seems to disappear. Here's a pill that's going down and it's fizzing. It'll disappear. The liquid will absorb it. If you put sugar into iced tea and mix it up, the sugar will dissolve in the liquid and the sugar will disappear. You won't see it. It's still there. You just can't see it. That's why it seems to disappear. It's still there. We just can't see it. Let's look at an example of this. Here we have a glass of water, right? The liquid is water. What we're going to see is somebody's going to put 2 pills in there. Plop, plop. By the way, there's an old commercial about this. These pills are probably pills to help if you have an upset stomach or your stomach is up-I-O, right? You put these 2 pills in there and they dissolve, they fizz, and then you have relief. So the song is plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. Okay, that's an old commercial, right? So you put the two in there. They fizz, F-I-Z-Z, right? They fizz. Oops. Fizz. Plop, plop. Well, the first one is, of course, is plop. Plop is the sound that the pills go into the water. Plop, plop, fizz, fizz, and they dissolve, right? So then when the pills are gone, you drink the liquid. It's a relief to your stomach. So a lot of medicine is this way. But you're dissolving the medicine in the liquid. Another way to change matter is to tear it, right? Especially when we have something like paper or fabric. You can tear that, right? Tear means to separate or be separated by force. Okay? So things that are soft, we talked about in a previous lesson, things that are soft can be, you can tear them, they can be torn. Can be torn. So tear changes to torn when you're talking about something that you've torn it, you teared it, it's in the past, it is torn. It is torn. My shirt is torn. My skin, that's terrible if you injure yourself. My skin is torn. So you can tear soft things. That means to separate or be separated by force. So be careful. Don't tear your elbows or your knees, right? Okay, let's move on. A burn is another way to change matter. It's another way that matter changes. Burn, of course, if you burn something, you need fire. Burn means to destroy with fire. Burn is a destructive force. It destroys. It destroys something. It changes something into something else. But when you burn something, it's not usually you're not creating anything really constructive. You're usually destroying something. So burn means to destroy with fire. So after we burn something, if you burn something, what is the result? A lot of things can burn. You can burn paper, you can burn wood, you can burn hair, right? Be careful with fire. Fire will destroy many things. But after the fire is gone, what's left? Ash. After burning, ash, and we can see the ash in the glass dish here. This is ash. It's all black and it's gray, right? That is ash. Ash is the material that is left after something is burned. So if you burn a piece of paper like this, it changes color, it changes shape, it changes the composition of the paper changes to a black, very thin, very delicate substance that's really no use to anybody. You can't really use ash. Okay, and that is ash. Now, another way that you can change matter is that you can fold it, right? Especially if you like to make objects from paper, like and you use origami, right? Origami, you will fold paper to make an object like this. Fold, to bend, so that one part covers the other part. It's very common using with paper, but you can also fold skin. You can fold lots of different material, as long as it's soft. Remember, if it's soft, you can fold it. When you put your shirts away, you fold your shirts up, put them into your drawer. Okay, so to fold is another way to change matter, to bend so that one part covers the other part. Now, how can you change matter? We've talked about a lot of different ways that you can change matter. One way that we've talked about some of these, but one new way is to bend something. And actually, we talked about that in a previous lesson. Remember when we said something is soft, you can bend it, right? To bend, if you see this metal here, now of course, metal isn't soft, so you have to use a really a lot of force, a lot of energy to bend this metal. But some metal workers will bend the metal to make nice designs. And that's to bend it, okay? You're changing the shape of something. It's straight before, you bend it, now it is curved. And that is to bend. We talked about mix. When you mix something, especially these girls look like they're having fun mixing something. They're probably baking, I don't know what they're baking, maybe a cake there, but they're mixing the ingredients in a bowl. They're mixing them together. So they're mixing things together. This boy here looks like he's making a paper airplane, or he could be making a kite, but he's cutting paper. He's cutting it. So when you cut something, it's kind of like tear, but a cut is more precise. It's more controlled. Tear is not so controlled. Cut and tear are very similar, but cut is when you use scissors and you cut something very nicely and very cleanly. Okay? Over here we have burn. We talked about burn. When you burn something with fire, use fire, it destroys it. So we can see this paper is being destroyed by fire. And what's left is ash. We actually have a video for that. Let's take a look at the video. Here we have like wrapping paper and some paper down here, and we can see the fire on the top. Let's take a look at the video. Oh, you can see how it changes very quickly. See how the paper or the wrapping paper is being turned into ash along the sides here, where the fire is destroying the original material, the original matter. And as you see, as the fire progresses, as the fire moves from one side to the other, we can see how it spreads, and it turns the bright color yellow into a black gray color, which is the ash. So we have the ash here. And you know, it's too bad. It's a shame that we're burning this stuff, because we have very colorful things, but this is being destroyed. This material is being destroyed and turning into ash through fire. Let's move on, come back here. Another way that we can change matter is to fold things. And you can see you can make many fun shapes if you fold paper together, right? We can fold many things together, things that are soft. So this is another way that we can change matter. Finally, up here, we have tear. Remember, I talked about tear and cut. They're very similar. But when you tear something, you're not using scissors. You're using force to pull two things apart. In this case, somebody's tearing a piece of cardboard off. If you cut something, it's more precise, it's more exact, it's more controlled and cleaner than tearing something. Both achieve the same result, but tear is a little messier, it's a little dirtier than cutting something. Okay, let's go over these words here. We're going to have a little exercise, see how well you can remember the words that we just covered. We have the words here: tear, dissolve, mix, separate, mixture, and burn. And these are the definitions. So we're going to match these words to their definition. Let's start with number one. To destroy with fire. We just saw the video of that, right? When something is destroyed by fire, we call that process to burn, right? To burn. And of course, after something burns, what's left? Ash, right? So if you destroy something with fire, you are burning it. To burn something. Okay, number two. Two or more kinds of matter put together. Now we have two similar words here. We got to be careful. One is a noun and one is a verb. So we're looking for the noun here. Two or more kinds of matter put together. So if we have two different types of nuts or 3 different types of nuts, and we put them all together, right? What do we have as a result? We have a mixture. Mixture is a noun. So 2 or more kinds of things of matter that are put together, we call that a mixture. It's a mixture. Remember, I gave you the example of a cookie. A cookie is a mixture of 2 or more kinds of matter put together. Eggs, chocolate chips, flour, sugar, many different kinds of matter put together. We have a mixture. A cookie is a mixture. So a mixture is things that we put together. Number 3. To put something into a liquid and make it seem to disappear. Remember, we talked about the medicine. We saw the video of the medicine, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, right? It dissolved into the water. It seemed to disappear. It's still there, right? It's still in the water, but it seemed to disappear. It dissolved into the water, kind of spread out in the water. And that, of course, is to dissolve. Okay? Let's move on to number 4. Number 4, to keep things apart from each other. So let's say, for example, we have the nuts. You have different kind of nuts. You have peanuts, you have almonds, you have cashew nuts. But you don't want to mix them together. You don't want a mixture. You want to keep them apart. You want to separate those. So separate. To keep things apart from each other, you want to separate them. Number 5, we have separate again. To separate or be separated by force. Remember that? That's that action that you separate 2 things by force, something soft. Remember, it's very similar to cut, but cut is very controlled and clean. This word is very dirty. Do you remember the word? If you chose tear, that's correct. Tear something, to separate 2 things by force. Finally, 6, to combine. We're looking for a verb here because to combine, that's a verb. 2 or more things. So we have 2 or more things like peanuts, almonds, cashew nuts. We want to combine them together. What are we doing? We are mixing them. To mix 2 or more things together. After we mix things, that's the verb. We combine them together. That's to mix. After that, we have the noun. That is a mixture. So the difference between mix and mixture. Okay? So these are the words and these are the definitions. This is how we will define these words. These are the words we just studied. Let's move on. We have a nice chart here. We have kinds of mixtures. Now this is an interesting point here, right? Because we've talked about mixing candies or nuts. This would be this type of a mixture here. And we also talked about dissolving pills, medicine, or sugar, something in water. Now let's take a look at the 2 different kinds. There's actually 2 different kinds of mixtures here, and they're important in an interesting way. Because sometimes when you mix things together, like in this case buttons, it's easy to pick them apart. The things in the mixture do not change. For example, if you have all these buttons here, you mixed them together. You have a mixture of different buttons. But you can go in there very easily and pick out the green buttons, the big buttons, the small buttons. You can pick out the buttons with 2 holes or the buttons with 3 holes. You can separate those, right? That's easy. Okay? Let's take a look at a video of that. The things don't change. That's the other point. If you take them apart and you separate, they're still buttons. They don't change. Let's take a look at a video of that. Here we have, of course, all of these buttons like we're talking about. Now somebody's going through and they're picking out the different colors, maybe the buttons that have different number of holes. Some buttons have 2, some buttons have 3, some buttons have 4 holes. You can pick them out. You can separate them. That's easy to do, and they don't change their shape. However, sometimes when you mix things together, it is hard to separate them, right? Some things will dissolve in the liquid and you can't separate them. You can't pick them out. Okay? Let's take a look at a video of that process. Now, we have a scientist who's working in a lab. She's going to mix 2 things together. Let's watch. She has a yellow liquid. She has a light blue liquid. She's mixing them together. Okay? This is our mixture. It turns green. Very interesting. Now imagine, she had yellow and blue at the beginning. Now she has a green liquid. She's mixing it up together to make sure it's all mixed. Now, can she go back in there and take out the yellow and take out the blue? No, she's not going to be able to do that, right? It's all one liquid now. There's no way she's going to be able to take out the blue liquid and the yellow liquid. She can't separate the original material. And that's the difference. Some materials, when you mix them together, you can separate them. They don't really change, right? And you can, they don't change their form. But sometimes when you mix things together, you can't pick them out. Again, return to the cookie example. Can you pick out the flour from the cookie? The sugar? No way. It's very difficult to do that. So sometimes you can, after you mix things together, you can pick them apart, but sometimes you can't. They are mixed together and you can't separate them. Okay. Let's take a look at a picture here, or a picture matching exercise. What we're going to do here is take a look at the different pictures. We're going to choose the name of the action. What is the action being done in each picture? Okay, what is the action being done in each picture? How do we change matter? Number one, we're taking a look at a picture here. We see a young girl here. She has a piece of paper in her hand, and one hand is moving away from the other hand. So she's separating that paper by force. Do you remember the action there? Is she burning it? I hope not. She should not be playing with fire, right? She's not burning it. Is she tearing it? Absolutely. That's what she's doing. She's tearing the paper. She is tearing the paper apart. Move on to number two. This person is taking a piece of paper and they are making a paper airplane. That's fun to do, isn't it? When you make a paper airplane, what are you doing to the paper? You are either mixing the paper or folding the paper. If we look at mix, remember mix means to take two or more things and mix them together. But that's not happening here. There's only one material. It's paper. And we're not adding anything to it. We're just changing the shape of the one item. What we're doing is we're folding it. We're folding it together. We're changing the shape by folding the material over itself, to cover one part of it with itself. So to fold. Finally, we have two kids here. They look hungry, right? They look like they're going to enjoy cookies afterwards. Looks like chocolate chips are being put into a bowl there. What are they doing? Are they mixing these materials together, or are they bending? Bend, remember, means to make something straight into a curved shape. But they're using two or more ingredients and they're combining them, and that, of course, is the definition of mix. They are mixing these ingredients to make cookies. And I'm getting hungry. Yeah, looks like good chocolate chip cookies. I hope they will have good chocolate chip cookies in about 30 minutes. I hope that they do it well. It looks like it's a little bit messy, but I'm sure they'll be able to cook their cookies well. Okay, let's move on to our last one here, true and false questions. Let's take a look at the sentence. If it's true, we circle T. If it's false, we circle F. Number one, separate means to. So we're looking for the definition of separate. What does separate mean? It means to destroy with fire. Is that correct? That's not correct. Remember, if we have the word burn, burn is our one thing that we do here. If we put burn, that would be true, but it's not burn, it's separate. If it's burn means to destroy with fire, that would be true, but it's separate, so it's false, right? Okay, so number two. A mixture is two or more different things put together. So we're looking at a noun here. A mixture is two or more things, different things put together. What do you have as a result? That is a noun. It is a mixture, and that is correct, right? Because a mixture is exactly that. When you take two or more different things, you put them together, what's the result? A mixture. Number three, when a solid thing dissolves, seems to disappear into a liquid. The solid and the liquid are easy to separate. So if you take a pill or some sugar, you put it into water, you dissolve it, then it's easy to pick out the sugar of the pill, right? No, it's not, right? It's not easy. It says easy, it's not easy. So this is false. If it said not easy to separate, if we put not, then that would be true. But it's not easy to separate. You can't separate those two things. Very difficult. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break now. Then we're going to come back and take a look at the reading section. See you soon. Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're going over the reading section for Lesson 15, How Matter Changes, Matter and its Changes. So we're starting off with the topic sentence. Matter can change matter can change in many ways. It's a good topic sentence. Basically, what we're saying is that there are many different ways you can change matter. So we're going to take a look at those, right? First of all, we see you can tear, bend, or fold a solid. So these are three different ways that you can actually change matter. You can tear it, you can bend it, or you can fold it, right? If it's a solid, right? If it's a liquid, you can't tear liquid, you can't bend liquid, right? You can't fold a liquid. That would be very, very difficult to do. But for solids, that's an important point. A solid, you can do these things to it. The solid will look different. Sure, it'll look strange. It'll look different because if you tear it, it changes the shape. If you bend it, it changes shape. You fold it, again, it has a different shape. But it's still the same thing, isn't it? If you fold a piece of paper, it's still a piece of paper. It looks different, but it's still a piece of paper. However, matter can change into something else. So there are cases where matter can change into something else. Let's take a look at some examples. Well, first of all, when you burn wood, we talked about that. When you burn wood, remember, it's kind of a destructive process. It changes into ash. So when you burn wood, wood will change into ash, okay? So it changes the nature of the matter. So when you burn wood, it changes into ash. Another way, that's one way. Another way, second way, you can mix things, and then you have a mixture, and that's a different type of matter, right? A mixture is two or more kinds of matter put together. So especially when you mix things that cannot be separated, you come up with a new type of matter. You mix many different ingredients and you make a cake, a new type of matter, or a cookie. It's a new type of matter. So there's two ways that this passage, this paragraph is talking about, that you can mix things and that they change their form, that the matter changes. Okay, when you mix solids, remember there's two different ways also. When you mix different things, you have different results. In one result, when you mix solids, they don't change. It's easy to separate them, right? We took a look at the picture of the solids here. I mean, you could separate these. These might be a little more difficult to separate, but you could do it. But if you had a mixture, for example, of lots of different nuts together in one bowl, you could separate them, right? They don't change. But some mixtures are hard to separate. Obviously, if you have medicine, pills that dissolve in water, you can't separate them. They're together, right? In fact, you can't even see how to separate them. They're blended together so well that it's very hard to determine how they are different. They seem to be the same thing now. Okay, when you put a solid into a liquid, some solids, not all solids, right? If you put a rock into a glass of water, you can still separate it. It doesn't dissolve. But some solids will dissolve, okay? So if it dissolves, it breaks down its structure, its shape. It seems to disappear. It will make a mixture, right? Then you have a mixture that you cannot separate, right? So it will dissolve. If you put sugar into hot water, afterwards, it's very hard, it's almost impossible to separate the sugar from the water. I mean, you could do it, but it would be very difficult to do. If you put sugar into hot water, it's hard to separate the sugar from the water. So after that is dissolved, you can't separate them. It's actually a new type of matter, right? It's sweet water, not just water, it's sweet water. Okay? So let's talk about the reading skill. Main idea in detail. So we talked about the main idea. What was the topic sentence? Matter can change in many ways. So basically this passage was talking about many different ways that matter can change. We can see the details that support this main idea. Our first detail, you can cut, tear, bend, or beep a solid. The solid is still the beep, so of course we have many blanks here. We need to fill in the blanks with these words. Mix, dissolve, fold, same. Coming back here. Starting off, we can cut, we can tear, we can bend, or we can do something else. So what's another method that we can use to change a solid? You can cut it, you can tear it, you can bend it. What else can you do it? Can you mix it? Can you dissolve it? Can you fold it? Can you do the same? Well, you can do a couple of things. We have to continue reading. The solid is still the beep. Okay, so we have to combine these two actually. We can't just go on the first sentence because you can mix a solid, you can dissolve a solid, you can fold a solid. we're not sure which one goes in here, we need to read the second sentence. The second sentence is the solid is still the mix, dissolve, fold, same. Same is the only word that makes sense here. So if you can cut, tear, bend, or if you fold a solid, it don't change it. Remember, I used the example of paper. You fold a piece of paper, it's still a piece of paper. The solid is still the same. So actually we have to use both of these blanks in connection with each other. We can't just fill in this blank without looking at this blank. We have to look at them both together to figure out which words go in there. Because you can cut, tear, or bend, or dissolve a solid. Yes, you can do that, but it's not the same if you do that, right? So that's why we have to look at these two sentences at the same time to figure out what is the correct answer. Okay, so let's move on to C. When you beep solids, they are easy to separate, okay? When you do something with solids, you can still separate them. Well, if you put mix, then that's correct. When you mix solids, right, you take peanuts and almonds and cashew nuts, you mix them together. They're all solids, you mix them together, but it's easy to separate them. When you take different colored candies and you mix them together, you can still separate them. It's easy to separate those. Finally, some solids will beep in liquids. So if you take a solid, you mix it with a liquid, some, not all, but some solids will do what? They will, of course, they will dissolve. They will become part of that liquid, right, in the solution. And, of course, you won't be able to separate those. But remember, the key point here is some, not all. Remember, if you put a rock in a glass of water, it doesn't dissolve, right? You can still separate it. So some solids like sugar, medicine, things like that, they will dissolve in liquids. Okay, let's move on. Let's do some reading comprehension questions. Our first sentence here. What is the matter left? What is the thing left? What is left over when something has fully burned? So if you burn something, what is left over? What does that thing change into? Okay? Do we have mixture, ash, or sugar? Huh, it would be great if it was sugar, but I'm sorry it's not sugar. You know? You'd go around, don't go around burning things. By the way, be very careful with fire, right? But if things change into sugar, maybe people would be burning things, you know, burn a piece of paper, get some sugar. Yeah, no, that's not true. Okay? So what is the matter left when something is fully burned? Is it a mixture or is it ash? Of course, the right answer is ash, right? When you burn something, it changes into something black or gray. That's called ash. So that's what's left over. Number 2. When you mix two solids together, you take two solids, you mix them together, the solids, what happen? Do they change color? If you take two different colored candies and you mix them together, are the colors changed? No, they're not changed. They're still the same color they were originally, right? A green piece of candy will still be a green piece of candy if you mix it with a red piece of candy. They don't change color. Will they dissolve? Well, remember, it's two solids, no liquid, right? If you mix two solids together, they don't dissolve. Dissolve only happens if you have liquid, if there's liquid involved. If there's liquid involved, then they will dissolve. But there's no liquid, it's just two solids. That's not right. C must be the right answer. When you mix two solids together, the solids do not change. That's correct. They don't change. And so it's easy to separate them later. Okay, let's move on to number 3. If you dissolve a solid in water, right? Now we're talking about something different. Now we have a solid and we have a liquid. What happens? It is A, easy to separate the two types of matter. Is it easy to separate? No, because they dissolved, right? That's the important part. If they didn't dissolve, yeah, you could separate them. But in this case, they did. They did dissolve. So it is easy? No, it is not easy. A is not the right answer. It's not easy to separate them. B, it is hard to separate the solid and the water. Well, actually, that's the correct answer, isn't it? Because if it dissolves, it kind of becomes part of the water. C, it is hard to burn, and so a lot of ash is made. That doesn't make sense, right? That's not correct. Okay, so C would be incorrect. Let's move on to number 4. If you fold a piece of paper, it will, A, look different, but it is still paper. B, look different and no longer be paper. Or C, look the same as a book. Okay. Okay. Well, actually, of course, if you probably got the right answer, right? Which is it, A, B, or C? If you chose A, you're correct. You fold a piece of paper, it will look different, but it's still paper. We talked about that several times already. You fold a piece of paper, changes shape, looks different, but hey, it's still paper. Didn't change into something else. Just look at the other two for practice. B, look different and no longer be paper. No, it's still paper. So B is not correct. C, look the same as a book. No, if you fold paper into a paper airplane, it looks like an airplane. Doesn't look like a book, right? So C is obviously incorrect also. The correct answer, of course, is A. Okay, well, we've come to our last slide. Of course, do you remember this slide? We talked about this chart before. What we're looking at here is different ways that we can change matter. So we've talked a lot about different ways that we can change things. How can we change them? There are different pictures showing the different ways that we can change matter. So let's go over this. Do you remember it? We'll have a little bit of a test, right? First, I'll describe the picture. You guys see if you can figure out what that process is called or what that verb is called, how we can change matter. Let's start over here. This time, we have somebody, they have two hands on a piece of cardboard and they're pulling it apart, right? They're using force to separate a soft material. Do you remember what that is called? That, of course, is to tear something, to tear something. So this person is tearing something. Over here on the top picture, we have a piece of metal, right? The shape of the metal has been changed. It used to be straight, but now it is curved, right? And it's made into a very artistic shape here. Do you remember what the verb is used to describe this action? If you chose bend, you would be correct. They're bending a certain type of matter into a different type of shape. Okay, over here we remember these two girls. They look like they're very busy. They're hungry, so they're cooking something. What are they doing? When they cook something, they take a lot of different ingredients, a lot of 2 or more different types of material, and they're combining it, right? What are they doing? They are mixing. They are mixing materials together. Over here, this boy seems to be very serious, right? He's doing his work very well. It looks like he's making something with a piece of paper. He's using scissors. What is he doing exactly? He is cutting. To cut the paper, to separate the pieces of paper, but using scissors or some other tool to make a very fine and very exact, very careful separation of the two materials. Remember, cut and tear are very similar, but tear is messy. It's not as clean as to cut, okay? But they're very similar types of actions. Over here we have a unique type of action, right? This action actually changes the nature or the material that it affects. We're using fire to change this material. When we use fire to change it, to destroy it, what are we doing? We are burning it. To burn something means to change with fire, and then afterwards, what the material changes into is ash. Okay, our last way that we can change matter is over here, represented in this picture. This looks like paper that has been changed, right? The verb that we use, of course, is to fold. So we fold paper to make many different shapes. And remember, it's still paper, right? When we fold something, when we fold our shirts at night and put them away, they're still shirts, right? And we've just changed the shape of them. Okay, well, that wraps it up for this lesson. We've covered matter and how to change it. We've talked a lot about different ways that you can change matter and what happens to matter when it changes. Remember, sometimes we mix solids, sometimes we mix liquids, sometimes we mix solids and liquids. We talked about, sometimes when you mix solids, you can separate them. Sometimes when you mix a solid into a liquid and it dissolves, you can't separate them. So lots of different concepts and ideas we talked about how to change matter. Hope you've learned a lot as usual, and we'll see you guys next time. Take care.